R-U-T-H, Jones, Ruth Jones. I get to know my students very well on a one-on-one basis. They feel real comfortable coming to me with just about anything. I like to have kids exposed to as many things as possible because I believe that that's going to make those students more able to be successful.
I'll rise. I'll rise.
I call myself reparenting some of these children. And the ones that don't need reparenting, I help parent them. For parents who may not be skilled in parenting, I know I'm good at it. People in the neighborhoods and all around Grand Rapids need to know what we do for the least of these. The Lord says we do it for Him. It's very challenging, but I think for me, I like this position as a principal because it's kind of really gets at what I feel the whole district should be about. They're wonderful children and they're very bright and they're looking for an opportunity to show that. And I'm just glad that we have some things in place that we believe are going to offer them that opportunity for maybe the first time in some of their lives to really show what they can do. Run and go eat something. Hurry up and go eat. Go down there and tell her that you didn't get to eat anything. Hurry up now. In our nation, we haven't been sowing very much into the lives of urban children. And the thing that concerns me is if we don't hurry up and start to sow into their lives, we're not going to reap very much. But the thing that I have found since I've been here is that you give the loving and the encouragement first. The academic part then follows. We can't fix home, but we certainly can get in between them and failure and love on them so much that maybe home is just a little more bearable. Give me a hug, big old Aaron.
Bye, Miss Jones.
This is my biggest boy.
My favorite thing about school is my great principal.
Why?
Because she pinches our cheeks. She kisses us. When she needs a hug, she always get a hug from me because she know when she sees my smile, it starts her day off.
Our school is one of the schools that where Miss Jones is the main person that really loves us, and she makes sure that we get a good education.
Miss Jones, I know her ever since I was a little tiny thing. Miss Jones always tells us, keep studying. You can never know anything if you don't study. I got a lot of things I want to be, but I like proving my point and stuff, so I probably think I might be a lawyer.
Do you think when you get to be a lawyer, when somebody offends you or makes you mad, you're going to be in the office doing that? I'm in education because I think there is no more honorable profession as far as I'm concerned. Everybody who's doing anything today got there through the help of a professor, a teacher, an educator. I got a letter probably about a month ago from a young man who said, Ms. Jones, in your attempt to get me ready for all the difficult teachers and hard teachers I was going to have in my life, you ended up being the hardest teacher I ever had in my life.
My first name starts with Q-U-I-N-N-C-Y.
It really is that throwing the stone in the water and the ripples, and I have no doubt that Quincy, he will pass that on to others, without a doubt. It's that rippling effect. And even though I may not be able to be the principal in that new building, it won't matter because it wasn't for me in the first place. It was for them. And actually now that I won't be the principal, I might have some time to go and enjoy the building and do some fun things with the kids. I feel better when I see a child bundled up to it where if they fell down, they can't hardly get up, like the Christmas story. And they feel better too. And then I pinch their cheeks and tell them, you're just the most beautiful little boy. Oh, you're handsome and you're smart and you just have the most wonderful smile. When you smile, it makes me happy. You know, you don't just put the coat on, but you really care for them too. And that's really what just changes them, you know. I say to my grandchildren, you know, God must have said, boy, Ruth, you know what, you're so awesome. I'm gonna let you have Jana for your granddaughter. And they just look at you, you know. And when I was principal, I would say to kids at Henry, I must have did something really good. And they just smiled the same, just like my granddaughter does. And then I said, give me a hug. It's pretty simple. When you sow love, you reap love.
Hey, good morning. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming to what I would consider is the best school in Grand Rapids Public. This is the school that Ruth Jones Hairston built, really from the ground up. So I want to welcome you to Martin Luther King Leadership Academy. I am the current principal. My name is Harvey Crowley. And at this time, words can't describe how proud I am to be up here in honor of Ruth Jones. I met Ruth one time, but I knew Ruth from word of mouth, from church, from people in the community. So it was an honor that first time that I met her here in my office, and she was just a wonderful, wonderful individual. And I just want to say one little thing to the entire family. During this process, we've been filling information from former students, from former staff, and it has allowed me an opportunity to really get to know the woman who I met, like I said, just at one time. I can't put into words the dedication that folks talk about, her love, her as just a woman, as a family woman, a community person. The stories are just endless. So I wanted each and every one of you to know that. And it's a little bit different for me, because what we're doing is we're trying to gather all those stories to put into a binder to give to you as a family, as a book. And they just keep pouring in. For example, when this was released for yesterday, I already have like 32 emails of individuals who wish they could be here to at least acknowledge, you as a family and the wonderful experience that they had with Ruth. I want to thank, I know there's some staff members here at MLK who actually work with Ms. Jones who are here. I'd like to thank, there's some former students of Ruth, some retired individuals who work with Ms. Jones. I want to thank Superintendent Roby, who is to my left, and those board members, I believe Ms. Williams and Ms. Gant, did I say that right? Grant, are going to speak when I'm done. But not to, because I can ramble on and on. Like I say, I've gotten so much information, and the information and the stories are just powerful. I know there's a few that I really want to say, but I get emotional. But it just speaks to the individual that Ruth was. She made such an impact, not only for students, staff, just the entire Grand Rapids community. So, again, I'm proud to be part of this. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly Williams and Christian Grant, if they can come up and say some words. So thank you. Thank you all for being here.
I'm going to try to project well behind the mask, so I apologize if it's a little muffled. But good morning, and thank you all for being here today for this momentous occasion to celebrate and honor Ruth Jones Hairston for her remarkable service to our students, schools, district, and the community wide. My name is Kimberly Williams, and I am the Vice President of the Grand Rapids School Board of Education. I am here along with my colleague, former board president, Christian Grant, and she's also our current board member as well. We're going to share thoughts on behalf of the board president, Jen Shockey, and the rest of the board members. One of my most memorable moments with Ruth Jones Hairston was through facilitating Believe to Become workshops together. I didn't know how best to describe what I was feeling, but it was this contagious spirit that just was drawing me closer to her, and hearing her name throughout the buildings. So it was a spirit that illuminated the room and just brought everyone together, young and old. I was one of those individuals, and I was truly inspired by her presence, her spirit, and her leadership. One day, I'll never forget, we were talking, And I shared with her that she reminded me of my favorite teacher, Mrs. Ward from Crescent High School. Go Polar Bears. And she smiled, that Ruth Jones smile, and said she was her sister. And I just jumped in her arms and hugged her and let her know that it was an honor to know her and explain that that's kind of why I was just kind of drawn to you so often. So it was a pleasure to have known her, to have been in her presence. While I was not a student of hers, I felt like I was still educated by her, just being in her presence. So I am thankful for that privilege. I want to say thank you to her family and her children for sharing her with us. We understand that it is a great commitment, and she went above and beyond always to be there for GRPS kids. So I want to thank you for sharing your mom with us. And it was like we had a little bit of chance to be mothered by her as well. So thank you so very much. I just want to turn it over now to Christian Grant.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams, and good morning, everyone. I am so excited to be here for this occasion. I remember when Interim Superintendent Gorman first came to me not long after Mrs. Jones' passing and said that GRPS needed to do something special to honor and celebrate her. It is particularly important to me because I grew up knowing Mrs. Jones just as a part of the family, as a person who was always there. Our families attended church every Sunday together. We volunteered and served together. My father was a part of Scott's very first business startup. I remember late nights with our families being together, working together, and sometimes you don't even realize how much that means until later. It was a privilege for Mrs. Jones to be one of the people in my life that I grew up just knowing their presence and seeing giants among me before I even knew what that meant. I remember her as being kind-hearted and having that spirit that Mrs. Williams talked about. She had an assertive, business-like, don't mess with me attitude, but it came off better than, softer than you could ever imagine. I learned a lot about being a leader through observing how she taught and led others, her mannerisms, her patience, and her firm approach. It was always clear about what she expected because she held herself to those standards. It always stood out to me how she could carry herself. And as I watched her work with kids, parents, and the community, it led how I wanted to be when I was in those same positions. One lesson she taught me is that without even knowing it, you can change a child's perspective and groom them to be a leader. Here we are today in this state-of-the-art building that she fought for and that in so many ways only became a reality because of her work. A school on the very grounds of the original school that she led for 12 years and exemplified a transformative success that positively impacted the lives of tens of thousands of students that she served. Thank you, Mrs. Jones. We miss you, we love you, and your spirit will always live amongst us. Thank you to her family for sharing her. And now I would like to turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Ledrian Roby.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Ledrian Roby, Superintendent, and it is my honor and privilege to serve as your Superintendent of Grand Rapids Public Schools. This honor and privilege is even greater and more special today as I stand here with the family and the friends and the community partners to celebrate and uplift the career of our own GRPS, Mrs. Ruth Joan Hairston. While I am new to Grand Rapids Public Schools and I did not have the opportunity to personally meet Mrs. Jones Hairston, I'm not new to legendary educators, those whose passion, dedication, commitment, love for people continues to shine through. Just in the short time that I've been here, I've heard so many positive things about Ms. Jones-Hairston, and her legacy will continue to live on. So on behalf of Grand Rapids Public Schools, the more than 2,000 staff members and 15,000 students, I want to thank Mrs. Ruth Jones-Hairston for her remarkable service to students, to staff, to the community as a whole. It is fitting that this media center, a place dedicated to uplifting literacy for every student in every building on the very location of the original Henry Padilla Academy, is dedicated in her honor. Before I turn it over to Ms. Dudley, I want to take a moment to recognize my predecessor, Dr. Ron Gorman, for his leadership in making sure that this event, this dedication of the Media Center to Mrs. Ruth Jones-Hairston, became a reality. He was the interim superintendent who first took the lead to get the ball rolling, so to speak, and made sure that Scott and Nara and their entire family knew that GRPS not only loved her, but they wanted to remember and make it a reality. Unfortunately, a global pandemic kind of set the stage of all that we do, and it paused our ability to make this happen. So thank you again, Dr. Gorman. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Teresa Dudley, the former secretary of Mrs. Ruth Jones-Hairston and our current secretary of MLK. Mrs. Dudley.
Wow, to say that I waited for this day a long time is an understatement. You guys, today is a really happy day for me. I want to share with you some words from the very first article I believe that was written about Mrs. Jones. I'll set the stage for you. 2000, the year 2000, 1999, we were actually waiting for something big to happen. And I think it did, because I moved back from California and I came here. I stepped in the doors of what we now know as a playground, but it was it was Henry Padilla Academy. Didn't even know what Padilla meant. But when I met Ruth Jones, it didn't even matter, because everything that came out of her mouth from the moment I met her, I held on to it. And it became her legacy, her vision, which I gladly jumped into. And so today I just want to read a couple words that will probably give you an insight as to who Ruth Jones was, much like the words that you've already been hearing today. This article was done in 2002, so I had been here a couple years and kind of got a lay of the land and got to meet, some of the awesome teachers like Kathy Staper, Shar Booker, Barb Dodge, some of the students, Jessica Carter, Monique Carter, their mom, Belinda, Shayna. And so it was in 1993. It was announced that Henry Elementary School would close. It was at that time the only school in history of Grand Rapids Public Schools to close due to failure, academic failure. So as you can imagine, this was a heavy lift to actually close a building and ask somebody to come in and transform it. But we are in the transforming business here at GRPS, so that wasn't new to us. So Ms. Jones had to interview before a board of 20 people representing GRPS, business leaders, parents. So she decided on a strategy that might cost her job. We all know what that is. And I'm gonna talk about it. They asked her to introduce herself and to give her philosophy of education. So she told how the Lord had changed her life. She also told them that she didn't want the job. But. Sometimes we don't have a choice. It's a calling. So she was compelled to answer the call. And so with that, she told them her philosophy about school and students. And she believed strongly in the principles of sowing and reaping. And those of us who know her, she always said, what you reap, you shall sow. So if you reap good, what will you get back? You get back good. And she believed it, she said it, she sowed, She told children, "You're one of my leaders." He's a lawyer in the making. That's a doctor over there. And so kids started to believe it and take it in. And that was how we rolled here at MLK, well, Henry Paideia at the time. And students started to believe the words. Staff started speaking the same thing into those students. And those things did come into fruition. And Ms. Jones actually got an opportunity to see planting a seed, watering a seed, and seeing those same students that she sowed into come back and say to her, "Thank you for the quiet lunch." Because she believed in that. She believed it had to be one piece of the day that it was just total silence so you can get your thoughts together and be successful in class. And so kids would come back and say, "Thank you, Ms. Jones, for that quiet time. Thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for believing in me when nobody, not even my own family, would." And so those words resonated and began to inspire students. And this place just became a place of success. We had visits from dignitaries. We even got a presidential visit. He wasn't a president then, but he was actually running. And so he came to visit us because he had heard about Ruth Jones all the way to the White House. And so those are my thoughts and memories. As I look over this crowd, I see all the people that I've collaborated with, had relationships with. Jason Wheeler, thank you, because it is because of you, your father, and your dedication to Ruth Jones' vision that this building was erected. This was the first brand new building in GRPS's district. And that's because Ruth Jones said it, and it happened, and here we are today. That's all I have to say. I mean, I could talk about her all day, but you'll have to call me later for that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm so glad to see all of you here. I feel like I'm home. I started teaching the same year that Ruth started here. And she was so supportive, and she was so helpful. It was all the way from the days of Henry School to Henry Paideia Academy, and now Martin Luther King Jr. Academy, all those years. And the school has changed locations, but its spirit has not changed. And the spirit is the spirit that Ruth had here. She loved every parent and supported them. She supported every teacher, but mostly she was here for the kids. She loved the kids. She'd greet them at the door, coming and going when she could, and she gave them goals, and she gave all of us goals to strive for. She showed mostly love for the kids, and they felt it. She touched their cheek, she called them her kids, and she treated them like they were. She was a very special person to our family. My kids were counseled by her, and I got to teach some of her grandkids. So that was an absolute joy. She carried through in her life all of the things that she told us we should do. We did feel a warm presence when she was around, and we did feel peace and quiet because she did not yell. And I don't think she yelled at home either, but I don't know. But here she did not. She was soft-spoken, she was sweet and kind to everyone. Even when some people didn't like some of the things she said or didn't understand some of the things that she said, she was still welcoming, and she was still loving, and she was still kind. And she passed those traits on to the children that have gone through this school and the ones that are back here today. And everybody has a story, and everybody who knows Ruth has a story, because her life touched each one of us in a different way. I'm so thankful for her in my life and in this community and in this city. I'm very thankful for what she's done, and I praise God for her every day. And I thank him for her and her presence is still here. I feel it. Thank you. God bless you.
Good morning. I think I'm gonna lose the bet. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. I'll go first.
I got it. Okay. My name is Jessica Carter. I'm currently a CPS investigator with the state of Michigan. I decided I was going to go first because Sisters is a tough act to follow. If you know Ms. Jones, she was one of her drama kids. I can't follow behind her, so got to get myself together. To know Ms. Jones was spectacular, but to be a part of her life was indescribable. I was sitting at home, and I was thinking about what I was going to say today. And I was sitting at my desk, which is now my office, in the quiet with the music going, and it reminded me of lunch in elementary school. And I have to admit, I didn't appreciate those lunches in elementary school. They was quiet. We couldn't talk. And I'm a talkative person. Like, I got check marks often. But I appreciate the quiet lunches now. We needed those lunches. Ms. Jones would spend the entire hour speaking life into us. She would tell us that we were great, we were awesome, and that we were meant to do so much in this world. She told us every day that we were going to be the next leaders of this nation. And we believed her. Kids growing up on the southeast side of Grand Rapids were going to be the next leaders of this nation, and we believed it. She was instilling self-pride and confidence in us, and we didn't even know it. I remember going to middle school and high school and getting in trouble because I had just a tiny bit of attitude. I was strong-willed. And I would walk in the office and they would go, "Those are one of Ruth's girls." And I'd be like, "How y'all know?" And they wouldn't call my mom. Now, people who know my mom, they know I wouldn't want her to be called either, okay? But I definitely didn't want them to call Miss Jones, because I knew that when I left school and I went to Henry every day after school, because that was our safe place, and that's where we got to go and give back to what she was giving to us. And I knew that I had to go in that back office. And anybody who remember that old building knew about that back office. It was past Miss Dudley's desk, past Miss Jones' desk, and it was this little dark little back office. It was something out of the Matilda movie. It reminded me of the Chokey, but it was nicer. But I would sit back there and she would lecture me. And it'd be some words that went right over my head. And I knew later I had to look them up because I was like, what did she say? But now I appreciate our conversations. They weren't lectures, they were conversations. She was really instilling life into me. And now I see that now that working child welfare, I use those same tactics with my kids. Because I'm like, one day, you're going to call me and say, thank you. She used to tell us that we were her babies. And I believed it, man. Like, she was at all of my graduations, all the way up into grad school. She knew that I didn't know how to deal with this man. So she sent me around the corner to her sister's shop to get my hair done so that I could have confidence in myself. We don't get too many Ms. Joneses in this world. And we don't get to meet them and be a part of their lives either. I want to thank her children and her grandchildren for allowing us to share her as well. It's such an honor to be celebrating her life, but more important, her legacy. Thank you. Jessica and I made a bet this morning that the first one to cry would have to pay the other $20, so I'm glad she went first. Those who know Mrs. Jones or knew her well would know that her students don't get up to speak with a mic or behind a podium. We had to stand in front, loud and proud. She didn't follow rules much, and so she would tell me to take my mask off, but I'm not, because she's not here to defend me. So I'm gonna stand behind this podium, I'm going to use this mic, and I will keep my mask on. But I must confess this morning that I would always think it was cliche and a little bit cheesy when a speaker would get up and say that it is truly an honor and a privilege, ... But this morning, it is truly an honor and a privilege to be here and to use my voice and to speak in honor of the woman who taught me to speak, the woman who gave me my voice and a platform. Ms. Jones taught me to enunciate and to ensure that each word that I use has a purpose and it packs a powerful punch. I stand here humbled to say that it is truly an honor. And so I ask for grace this morning as I attempt to do the impossible. I will try to speak on behalf of Henry students and sum up the life, legacy, and impact on thousands of children, our families, and a community in only a few words. A community that is forever changed because she was here. As Henry students, we had no idea how lucky we were. But now at almost 2.5 decades later, please don't do the math there, I can say with certainty that we are the lucky ones. Many of us dominate the helping professions. And when we get together, we often conversate about how we all ended up in the helping profession and how are we all in careers that serve people. And then we laugh and in unison we say, Miss Jones. She was intentional. We now know how significant it was for her to be so selective about the staff and educators she hired at Henry. We now know that Miss Nystrom, Miss Libet, and Miss Dudley served a purpose in our lives that we will never have words to describe. Partnerships were intentional. Mr. John Wheeler, First United Methodist Church, and the Gleaners Food Truck. Ms. Jones connected our families to community resources so that we didn't have to see shut-off notices and evictions. Ms. Jones was intentional. First-time experiences, we flew in airplanes and we rode a ferry. Little brown kids rode a ferry in Mackinac Island, and we went horseback riding and rode bicycles through town. We had a future president come and read books to us in class. We went to go see historic sites in DC, and we went to New York City. Christmas food delivery, spare uniforms, knitting club, drama club, walking around the corner to Andy's shop to get our hair done, to just name a few things. From pension cheeks to lunchroom reflection time, Ms. Jones was intentional about raising the leaders of tomorrow. Many of us will be the only Ruth Jones some will ever meet in a lifetime. But she prepared us to carry on her legacy, not because we are the leaders of tomorrow, but because we are the dynamic leaders of today. And we know that we will reap what we sow, and we must do for the least of these. We know that love is patient, kind, humble, all of the time, not easily angered, enduring a test. And we shall never forget that love is the more excellent way. I am Monique Carter, a Henry Park Paideia Academy Eagle on the rise.
I'm back. Hey, if I could have Scott and Nara come up just for a moment. When we talk about Ruth Jones, I mean, this is, of course, we talk about legacy, but this is really a legacy of Ruth Jones. And I know I spoke earlier about putting together all those thoughts that are coming in, and I know that'll come at a later time. But we wanted to give both of you, this is like a transition that Jessica just spoke about. Some of our kids got together with the art teacher, and they did some watercolors for both of you of Ruth Jones. And actually, there's a bigger one that we're going to be putting up in the main office. But this was our token of appreciation from our students to both of you. So, you know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. No. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is beautiful. Thank you so much.
I'm not going to say much. I'm just overwhelmed. Oh, thank you.
Wow.
I'm overwhelmed. It's still surreal for me to talk about her in the past tense, but I am honored and just overwhelmed by the love and the words that everybody shared today. Thank you, Grand Rapids Public Schools, for honoring my mother's legacy, our mom's legacy. I just appreciate it because there are, you know, people going with life and they don't stop to just say thank you for your service and for all you poured into a community. So I appreciate you guys doing this and honoring her in a way that students for years to come can see. So thank you for that. I'm not gonna say much more.
Oh, yeah. One of the thoughts I had is that while it takes a village to raise a kid, it takes a community to raise a school. And as I look out and I see all these amazing faces, all the love, all the kindness you've shown, and honoring our mom's legacy, from students to sitting at Sundance with Ron Gorman after some morning saying, let's have breakfast. And for him to really walk that out, and then for John Helmholtz just to continue, he's like, we're gonna get it done. When we would open and close because of the pandemic, and to hear all these wonderful and kind words, we just want to say we really appreciate you. And one of the things I always keep saying is in our household, it wasn't if you're going to volunteer.
Right. Where?
It was where you're going to volunteer, right? And to date, I mean, that's just how we live our lives, because to me, that's the currency of community, is when you give of yourself. And again, we celebrate our mom, who mothered so many, but what a wonderful honor to be able to be here. We love Grand Rapids. You know, she loved Grand Rapids. You know, she loved all of you as well. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you see actually that we are all a harvest of seeds that she's sown. And so what a wonderful thing. And just, it's so delightful to see everybody. We just want to say thank you. We love you, and we appreciate you so much. So thank you.
And then,
come on up, baby.
So this is my baby. I'm just gonna go for it. This is Jana, my daughter, who is a student at Howard University at HBCU, and she was actually a student at MLK, but knows all about Henry because Grandma was not gonna let her not know. So she has a few words to say.
So yeah, I actually want to talk more to that aspect because, I mean, a lot of people know I'm Ruth Jones' granddaughter, but I did get to sit in this library. I won my very first spelling bee in this library. Like, I went to all the lunch bunches. I had silent lunch, and the funny thing is my friends would be like, why can't we talk at lunch? And I would be the one like, this is why, let me tell you. Because my grandma would let me know, like, this is why we do this. You know, imagine going to a school that your grandma literally built from the ground up and knowing everything that was sewn into the school, and your friends are like, why do we do this? And you're the one to be like, well, you know, let me follow in my grandma's footsteps and do the things that she taught me. And it affected my friends as well. They knew who Miss Jones was, even though she wasn't the principal, because she would come sneak in our class and, you know, give everybody a hug, greet them at the door. Hi, sweetheart, how are you doing? So I didn't go to Henry, but I still got to experience my grandma in that light, and it's something that I will always remember and cherish. Like I said, I had a lot of fun moments as a kid in this very same library that I now get to stand in, and my grandma is being honored and it's being renamed after her. I think that's something that not a lot of people can say. So I'm very honored to even be in the same space that I used to be in this way right now. Like to just stand up in here in front of you and say, like, I'm here for my grandma being, you know, this pillar of education and this person that just was unstoppable in everything that she did. And I take a little piece of that with me everywhere I go. With me being at Howard now, I just take a piece of everything she said, kind of like the people who spoke before me said. You remember those things that she told you. And you can imagine being in the same house or, you know, and I would hear things at home and at school. So I just have so many folders in my head to pull from. But I had words that I was going to say, but I'm like, this is just in the moment right now. This is what's important for me to say, what's on my heart. So thank you to everyone who shared those beautiful words about my grandmother. And thank you for just being here to share this honor with me and my family. It means a lot to us. And I have nothing else to say, but thank you.
I got